Hey, my name is Kenzie Oliver, and today we're just gonna go through my workflow. We're gonna go through all of the basic adjustments that I use, and it's really simple. We're gonna touch up her face a little bit, and you're just gonna see how I edit a photo. So during this whole process, you'll see all of the basic adjustments that I use. First, we're gonna go and sharpen up her eyes a little bit. You can see that they're pretty in focus, but they could use a little sharpening. So we're just gonna slide that up there. And now we're gonna move down to the lens profile. So removing chromatic aberration, that's like removing all the different colors and the pixels that your lens creates. And then the profile correction, the lens correction, your lens kind of distorts it. It can add like a vignette or kind of distorts the shape of the photo, and I kind of like the vignette that my lens creates, so I don't usually correct it, but in some cases it works out. So now we're over in the profile browser, and I can be kind of creative on this one, and so I just chose one that I like, and maybe sometimes you'd use a more natural one, but I like to be creative in this one, so you can see how it even changed the color of the background, which I like. And now I'm just cropping it so that she's a little more centered. And then we're just gonna go to our basic adjustments. And just kind of playing around a little bit. Usually I do bring the highlights down a bit and the shadows up. That just evens it out. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is by making the highlights way too bright. We always want the skin tone to look natural and to look right. So I brought up the shadows a little bit, and then we're coming down to just the HSL, which is hue, saturation, and luminance. So I'm playing around with these to see what I like. If I like adding some red, that makes her face way too red, so I don't like that. The orange and red really affect the face, so you have to be careful if you're taking out saturation in any of those colors to make sure you don't affect her skin tone. And then the calibration. This is kind of a neat tool. It affects not just one color, but it affects the color in the shadows or in the highlights or in the midtones. So here again, just kind of playing around to see what I like. And again, the most important thing is that we don't change her skin tone to look sickly or too red or anything. We just want to keep her skin tone looking good, but it's still fun to be creative. There I'm doing the before and after, and the way that you do that is you just press the backslash button. That shows you the before and after. And then this slider up here, it just, with that, the profile that we used, you can increase its intensity or not. And then I'm just doing like one last check to make sure I like everything that I did. Oh, texture is a good slider. It softens the skin. It's kind of like an airbrush. You can like increase the texture on the face or decrease it, but you want to be careful because I'm sure you've seen photos that are just, the skin is way too soft, and so we want to make sure there's still some texture there, but it's a really helpful tool. I'm messing around with clarity right now. And now I'm liking how it's looking, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it into Photoshop, and then we can work on, I like to work on adjustments on the face and hair in Photoshop. It's just easier for me. You can do it in Lightroom, but this is just how I do it. Alright, so we're gonna wanna work on different layers when we do the face versus the hair versus brightening the eyes. So this layer is just for the face. Command J or Control J will give you the spot healing brush or the healing brush. Then you see I just had I had the spot healing brush and I wanted the healing brush. The healing brush, you can choose what part of the face you want to use, and then the spot healing brush just does it for you. Speeding this up for you so you can just see exactly what I did. You can see I still use the healing brush for those little hairs there. And now we're gonna go to the hair. And I use the clone stamp. So the shortcut for that is Command S or Control S. And you see how the background is darker than her hair, right? And so what I did is on the blending mode up on the top, I clicked darken so that it'll darken any of those lighter strands for the background. And then it doesn't affect the background at all. Kind of a neat trick. You could also use the patch tool on this, but I like using the clone stamp tool. It's just faster for me. You can see it's not extremely precise, but it takes care of those ones that are distracting. And here I did Control, I always get this wrong, Control Alt Command 4. I think that's what it is, or that's Control Alt Command E. And what that does is it takes all of the layers and it makes one layer out of all of them. So now I'm going to brighten up the eyes, and it's kind of funny, I grabbed the dodge tool, which actually brightens, when I meant to use the burn tool to darken around those eyes. So anything that's dark, you want to make darker, and then anything that's light, you want to make lighter. So I'm gonna fix this mistake in a second, realize what I did. Just create a new layer, and now I got the burn tool. So again, I'm just going around her eyes and darkening right there. I'm just gonna darken on the other side. Another thing too is on the whites of the eyes. Sometimes people have those red lines, and you can take those out with the healing brush tool. Shortcut for that is Command or Control J, or the patch tool. Sometimes you can even use it on the eyelashes, just takes a little longer to do. Didn't really make much of a difference here, but I also didn't spend very much time on it. Working along all of those darker parts of her eye. One mistake a lot of people make with the eyes is that they go a little too dramatic. I'm sure we've all seen a photo where the eyes are just popping out like they're alien eyes. And so be a little more subtle on this. You can, one thing that's good about doing this on a completely different layer is that you can go a little more dramatic and lower the opacity on it. But see, I pulled back here just to make sure, like, still gives it a pop, but it's not too dramatic. And now, okay, so I'm making another layer just to sharpen the image. So again, to make that layer is, let's see, it's Shift Alt Command E. I'm so sorry, that is Shift Alt Command E. Okay, so on this, I went up to filter, and then to sharpen, and then to unsharp mask. And now I want to go up to the eye because that's the most important part of the image to be sharp. And just make sure I'm not going too far, but I want it sharp, definitely. And that looks good. So that's the end of it. And that's my final photo. Thanks for watching, and thanks for seeing my workflow and seeing how I edit a photo.